You can create QuickBooks invoices automatically right from SmartSuite using Relay.app. If you're storing order or invoicing data in tools like SmartSuite or Airtable, there's no need to create these invoices manually. In this video, I'll show you how to automate the entire process. Check it out. Welcome back. I'm Zack from InnerDev Solutions. We help businesses streamline their processes using custom no-code tools so you can focus on what matters most. To learn more, you can visit our website, innerdevsolutions.com, or use the link in the description below. Let's jump into SmartSuite first and look at how the invoice data is stored before we build the automation in Relay. In SmartSuite, we have an orders, an items, and a customer table. I'm not going to need the salesperson or salespeople table in this use case. Basically, what we're going to do is create orders. We're going to attach line items. And then based off of the customer data, we're going to create invoices in QuickBooks. If you do not have an account already for SmartSuite or Relay, there's links in the description below for both. So really simply, in the orders table, we have a date field, we have a status or order status, links to a customer. We have a total, which is a roll-up of all the linked line items. We'll go over the items. All of these items linked to that first order. We have an item name, we have a quantity, we have a unit price, and we have a subtotal. And then we also have an item status as well. We will navigate over to Relay.app. I'm going to create a new workflow. And once it gets set up here, I am going to add a new trigger. I'm going to just label this create QBO invoice. And now the trigger is going to be in SmartSuite. And if you have not connected your SmartSuite account to Relay, you will have to go ahead and do that now. But now I'm just going to go in and do when a record first meets a condition. Now you're going to have to select your table here. I'm going to select my solution and then the table. And it's not showing up for some reason, but if I just type in orders, I can select the orders table. Now, the condition that I am going to use once we actually get into this is I'm going to base it off of a status change to shipped. The idea is I want to send an invoice for the entire order once it has been shipped. But what I'm going to do for now, because I need a condition, but I want to test it on just the ordered status, I'll just go status and I'll just say at this point in time is one of ordered or shipped. Next step that I need to do is I need to find that customer in QuickBooks. So if we go add step, we can look up QuickBooks. I'll select the QuickBooks option. And then if I just search customer, there's going to be this find customer item. And now there's customers to return. And I just want to find a single customer. This is basically a filter or condition that we're going to use to identify the customer. And also, if you do not have your QuickBooks account authenticated already, you can go ahead and do that. It walks you through the process, pretty straightforward. On the customers to return, single customer, add filter. And now I'm just going to do this based off of display name. There might be a few different ways that you want to handle this. You could add the customer IDs into SmartSuite so that you look it up. That way, you know you're guaranteeing and getting the correct customer in QuickBooks every single time, as long as it's linked to the correct customer in SmartSuite. What I'm going to actually do is just find the customer by the display name in this case. I've selected display name, contains, and I'm going to select this plus icon, go to record, go to link to customer, and I'm just going to use customer name. And then from here, if no customer is found, I'm going to pause the run and send a notification. And if more than one customer is found, again, I'm going to pause the run and send a notification so that there can be some sort of manual intervention. Once I've found the customer, assuming it's successful, I want to create an iterator step so that we can create each line item. We'll iterate, we'll select the record, and we'll link to items. For each item in this list, we want to run this step. So depending on how you have your QuickBooks set up, you may not actually add each individual line item into QuickBooks, and that's fine. What I have done and prefer to do, and a lot of my customers operate this way as well. So if we go into the new option here, we'll add a product or service, and I'll just click out of this for a second. There's a bunch of default services that have been added. This is just my sandbox account, but if I scroll down here, you can see that I created this web services item, and I'm just going to use that every single time. However, if you do want to be able to use the different items that exist in QuickBooks, you will have to use a find step. So really quickly, what that looks like is once you have your iterator here, we'll add step, search up QuickBooks, and then I'll select that, type in item, and we'll do find item, and we just want to get a single item. So again, we're going to use this filter, and what you would do is just search by that name. But in that case, you're going to have to make sure that the items in SmartSuite or in Airtable actually match the item name that is found within QuickBooks. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I'm going to add a step, search up QuickBooks again. I'll type in create, and we're going to create an invoice line item. Now, here's where I was referencing. You actually have to find an item, which is a product or service in QuickBooks. What we're going to do is just pass in the same value every time. I'm just going to search up that web services item I created, and that's what we are going to link it to consistently across all items that are created. Now, quantity, I can go to this iterator step here. Basically, for each item, we'll go into this and we'll click quantity, and it's going to grab the quantity from each attached line item through here. Now I'll go unit price, same thing. We'll select unit price there. Amount, I don't believe that we need to populate that field because we have a quantity and a price. QuickBooks will automatically calculate that for us. And I can click other fields to populate if I want, and I'm going to add in a description. So again, select this icon. We'll go into the iterator step, and then we're going to go in and just pass in the item name into the description. Now I'll hit done. And outside of the iterator, because this is just for the line items, we're now going to create the actual invoice. We'll QuickBooks Online, type in invoice, and now we can create an invoice. The customer we've already found, so we can get that from step 2. The sales items, we will just use this option here, and we'll go the invoice line items. And now we can pass in the data from the line items that we created there. Go into the unroll, select item, we'll go into description, and we'll pass in the description, the quantity, pass in the quantity, and unit price. If I just quickly scroll through, I think that's all I need. Again, amount, I'm going to leave empty because QuickBooks calculate that for us. Class, account, and service date, I'm going to leave empty because that's not relevant on my specific invoice. But if you go down here to add field, there's other values that you can pass in as well. So for example, invoice date, if you leave this empty by default, I'm pretty sure it picks today's date. So I'll just remove that. But you can see if we go through this list, you have a bunch of different options, whether you want to pass in a private message, an attachment, if there's a different currency that you want to pass in besides your default. So you do have a number of different options and fields that you can add. I'm going to keep it really simple though, and just leave it blank, and I will hit done. Now I can go up here, we'll start a test run, and we will start now. And you can see it's running through each step. We'll see in a moment if it's been successful. It iterated through each line item successfully, and it created the invoice successfully. If I go into QuickBooks, into our invoices, we can see it created a new invoice, passed in the customer. It created an invoice number for us. In this case, it shows us the balance up here, and it's added in each individual line item. Looks like our workflow was successful, but likely you do not want to end right here. What we're going to do is go back into SmartSuite. We're going to right click in the orders table, and then we'll right click, and we're going to add a couple of fields. The first one is going to be invoice number. And this is assuming that we're associating an order to just one invoice. Realistically, what I see in a lot of different businesses is we actually have to create a separate table, label it invoices, because quite often you need to create multiple invoices per order depending on your type of business. I'm just going to do it all online here. We're going to add in a text field for invoice number. And if we go back into Relay, I want to go into runs and just see what the output was here that's available. So if I click view details, we can see that it's passed us an invoice ID. It shows us the invoice number, which we're going to pass back into SmartSuite. If I scroll through, there is a few other values, and there's also this invoice URL. If I go back into SmartSuite, I'm going to create a new link field, and I'm just going to call this QBO invoice URL. I'm just going to leave it as a single entry. We'll add that in here, back into Relay, close this out. We'll go back into the editor mode, and then we'll click this icon. We're going to look up SmartSuite, update a record, and the record we're going to update is the one that triggered this entire workflow to begin with. We'll add that in and click add field, select invoice number, and then we'll also bring in the QBO invoice URL. And now I'm going to pass in the invoice number from the create invoice step. So pass that one in, and then the URL we will also pass in. So the invoice URL. We'll just hit done and we'll publish this. Now, if we want to test this live, we can do that, but we need to go into the trigger. We're going to change this from ordered to shipped. So we can remove the ordered. We got shipped here. Go into SmartSuite. I'm going to select shipped status, and it says it's an instant trigger. Sometimes it does take a few minutes. So I'm just going to click this check for updates. It looks like it has created a new run for us. And if we just hang on a moment, we can see that it was successful. I'm going to go back into SmartSuite. We can see that it has added an invoice number for us and a URL. If I select that, assuming we have user access into QuickBooks, it will open up the invoice directly. And we can see it created the invoice once again for us successfully. Really quickly, what you need in SmartSuite, Airtable, wherever your database is where you manage your invoice data, you can create these invoices automatically for you using Relay. In SmartSuite, we have our orders, items, customers table. There's maybe a few other fields that you're going to have to add into that piece of things. But in Relay, we have a trigger that looks for if the order is marked as shipped, and then it looks for the customer in QuickBooks. There is a step where you can create a customer as well. So if that customer is not found, we can create a customer and use that one instead. And then also we would want to create the customer in SmartSuite, but those are additional steps within Relay. Then we're using an iterator to go over each individual line item. We create that invoice line item, then we create the invoice and add all of those line items to it. And the last step is we add the invoice number and we add the invoice URL back into SmartSuite for easy reference. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more tutorials in the future.